What's up? Hey, hello everyone. Wow. I think we say this every single time, but this season has flown by. I cannot believe this past week we just saw the finale of Survivor Season 33 Millennials versus Gen X, and this is the third full season that Alyssa and I have podcasted. Big things happening, like we crowned the winner, 2 hours of Survivor, then 1 hour of the live reunion show. I mean, right now is the middle of finals. I was like, low key, this is crazy. And so my name is Rachel.
And I'm also in the middle of finals. So I have a friend who had finals the day after Survivor, and she was like, I can't watch the reunion show because I have to go to my final. And I'm like, oh. And so I texted her this morning and I asked her, hey, have you watched the reunion show yet? And she said, guys, finals are ruining our lives because we can't watch Survivor.
Yeah, they truly, truly are. It is a tragedy. I mean, I finished my last final today and I am flying home tomorrow. I am very, very excited. Have not been back in 4 months, not even for Thanksgiving or anything. So it is crazy. This season started basically when we came into college, and now we are leaving our first semester of college with Survivor ending.
Crazy. We've grown up so much, haven't we?
I mean, yeah, I think the podcast has grown up, I feel like. So, I mean, I guess starting off, we crowned the sole survivor of season 33 Millennials versus Gen X. And wow, it was Adam freaking Klein. Like, what the even heck? I mean, it was so freaking crazy. And I mean, throughout this whole episode.
So Rachel's gotten to meet Adam Klein. And so while she was with Adam Klein, she's like, okay, I'll call Alyssa. And so Alyssa, like a stupid head, had her phone on silent. So I see like 20 minutes afterwards that Rachel called me. So I call her back and she's like, we just left meeting with Adam. So I made $1 million mistake, my friends.
Truly, that was the $1 million mistake. I mean, so I think we mentioned it in our meeting Adam Klein and Neil Gottlieb video. You guys should totally check that out. I mean, shameless self-promo right here. We mentioned how we met Adam for lunch, and he's subscribed to this podcast. Super neat. And like, honestly, it's just so cool. Like, we not only know someone who's played Survivor and was like good at the game, but we know someone who's won the freaking entire game. Like, so unique. I posted on Facebook about like this whole thing, this whole experience, and like Adam is such a cool, like down to earth, relatable guy. Like 10 out of 10. So just 10 out of 10. Like, I mean, it's just so freaking crazy. Like throughout this whole season, personally, like low-key did not think Adam would win the game, nonetheless like make it this far. Like I was thinking maybe like early merge boot, and even like Corey and I were talking during the finale. We like, Corey was like, I did not get the winner vibes from Adam when we met with him. So I mean, low-key though,
this is why you moved to California, guys, because you get to meet all of the Survivor players. Meanwhile, back in Maryland.
Oh man, wait, I think it cut out there. What did you just say?
That's
after
why you
Maryland.
moved to California. Survivor players are there, and then there's nobody in Maryland.
That's true. Alyssa, you can be the first, but I mean, living vicariously through Adam, like we don't even need to play the game now.
I mean, pretty much. Okay. Anyways, the final 6, David, Jay, Adam, Brett, Hannah, Ken. And of those 6 people, we said last time that we considered 3 of them viable threats to win. And we said that we thought could be Jay and Adam. And so, obviously, we were right because one of those 3 people did win the game.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to be a lit AF tribal council going in with like 3 very viable winners, as well as like a Ken or a Hannah who, you know, maybe, and then a Brett in there, like very likable on the jury. I mean, we knew it was going to be lit as heck, and Disney Like, it delivered. It was so good. Watching it live for the first time this whole entire season, Alyssa and I could finally text because we don't have the East Coast, West Coast time differences, so we could actually talk about it while it was happening. I mean, this episode has its ups and downs. I think we were super scared. Like, we were like, shit, Adam is going to be voted out now because we have a personal bias towards him. We were like, God damn, like, they are giving David the million right now. So, I mean, great episode, I think. And Adam, very deserving as a winner. I feel like this season was Adam's season, and I feel like just the whole entire thing, it'd be something to look back upon, and it's like, it's a great, like, story, and it has a lot of, like, you know, just, like, feelings and emotions throughout this whole season.
Yeah, I think that this season, it was really great just because we got to see an entire arc. So even though some of the individual episodes, we thought that the editing was a little obvious about who was going to go home and stuff like that, I feel like this season ended up telling a pretty great story.
Yeah, and I mean, so Adam as the winner, he breaks, like, the winner as, like, the person who's won Survivor has never been the first person shown in, like, the opening credits, so he has broken that streak. And I mean, overall, like, Adam has played a very good game. A lot of critics are saying, like, it has a lot of mistakes, like, yes, but I mean, perfect games are just so hard, and I feel like the whole thing with Survivor is, like, adapting to your mistakes and just, like, learning what works and what doesn't work. Like, with this group of, like, 19 other strangers that you have never met before your entire life, Adam has checked off every single, like, fan bucket list thing on Survivor, you know, finding 2 idols, blindsides, and we have been mentioning this the entire season. And I mean, I don't know, he has a lot of big moves. I think voting Figgy out after being, like, on the wrong side of the numbers, the Mari vote, to, like, flushing Jay's idol last week, and we saw, and, like, smart moves. I think, like, the whole keeping 2 bigger threats around. So, like we were saying last week with the pecking order, like, David was definitely target number 1, Jay was target number 2 of who could win this game, and I think that's, like, a very interesting and, like, good strategy to keep all of these other strong people around. And I think we've seen it, like, played with, like, Jeremy and, like, Tony keeping, like, Spencer around and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that that's interesting just because a lot of people seem to get very, I don't want to say paranoid, but balancing act about how long you're going to allow those other threats to stay around, because obviously you don't want them around long enough that they can, like. So I think that it's an interesting strategy, but I think it's also a strategy that's going to need to continue to evolve if people want to continue using it, just because there's so much finesse in making sure that you're not accidentally shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it is super risky because, like, if they go on an immunity run or something, you might be stuck with them at Final Tribal. But, like, I mean, I forget what I was gonna say, but, like, very risky. But it is, like, a interesting strategy that I think we'll probably start seeing more in the future.
I think it's interesting just because you also have to weigh the players that you have with you, because no offense to David, but you're probably not going to bank on David going on an immunity run or anything of the sort. So it depends on how much take, but it also depends on the other people that you're playing with.
Oh, no. I meant back home, not here.
But anyways, yeah, I think that strategy is really interesting just because you can, a really obvious example of people keeping other threats and then, like, that shooting them in the foot would be Wu taking Tony with him to the Final Tribal Council, because it's like Tony is the ultimate threat in that game, and then Wu still took him, and even if the motivations weren't quite the same, I think that there are definitely parallels you can draw between, like, Tony and Wu and then Ken and David. So.
No, yeah, thanks, Alyssa. I mean, definitely something I'm looking forward to come, like, more seasons. And I mean, another thing with, like, Adam as the winner, I feel like a lot of people are saying Adam only won because of his whole sob story at the end of Final Tribal Council. And, like, like I don't really know how you approach these people. Like, it's like low key. Like, why would you say something like that? Because if you watch the jury videos, like that CBS has posted, it shows that most of the people on the jury were going to vote Adam even before he brought up his family situation. So, I mean, casual viewers probably do not even like watch these videos, and that's why they are like saying all of these different kinds of things about who they wanted to actually win the game. But I mean, just putting that out there.
And I mean, part of the thing is that it is the jury's choice in the end, and you can't just say the jury shouldn't have gone for him because it was a sob story. Like, the jury makes a choice and fans have to live with it, whether or not we agree with that choice. Like, I know last season, neither of us were particularly happy about the fact that Michelle won over Aubrey, but it's still the jury's choice. So
yeah, and interesting, like that is like the game of Survivor. And I mean, final tribal council with Ken and Hannah. I think Ken, he became like sort of a mini challenge beast. We saw that he won like immunity sort of 4 times throughout post merge. Ken had safety the entire final tribal, or the entire finale episode. All 3 votes he had immunity, had safety. Very interesting. And Ken even says it himself. He is sort of a more old school player, and it's interesting to like think if people are more rewarding of new school players in Survivor, because we see Ken going fishing a lot, providing, whereas in sort of new school you might not be doing those kinds of things.
yeah, I think it's really interesting because this was something Rachel and I were talking about before the episode started, and basically like olds being less and less recognized, which I think is interesting just because they're integral to the game. Like, people would not be able to run around strategizing and looking for idols if they were trying to, like, if they were starving to death because no one bothered to fish or do anything like that. So I feel like old school players are kind of being left in the dust, even though the new school players. So
no, yeah, I really feel like it's like the whole like survival aspect versus like the whole strategizing aspect, because LOL. I can't wait to go home. Because I feel like people did not take Ken seriously, because like people have said Ken would only strategize with certain people he deemed like worthy of being strategized with and stuff like that. So maybe people did not think Ken was like a viable winner, because, or like the jury did not think Ken was a viable winner because he did not have like the new school aspect of gameplay.
Yeah, and I guess like Zeke asked the question about the game's evolution in Final Tribal, and I guess part of it is, if you're going to join Survivor, are you now going to be forced to play like a new school player no matter what your personal game preferences are?
Yeah, and I feel like during the finale, I really loved seeing Ken talk about his daughter. I think that is like the most sort of like emotional or like family oriented we've seen Ken this entire season. I feel like we don't really know much about Ken, so it was really great to see him sort of like opening up and we can hear his story and like reasons for playing the game.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting just because everyone has a reason for playing Survivor. Like, you don't just go out onto an island just for the hell of it. So I kind of wish that Survivor emphasized that more, like the why behind the game, not necessarily. Like, I understand that it's not possible to give every player the dedicated time to talk about their, like, reason they're playing Survivor, but I think that it would allow for more character build-up, I guess, and then we also wouldn't be having people complaining about, like, oh, so-and-so only won because they had a sob story, because as a sob story, like.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think, like, with this whole, like, old school versus new school, I think Hannah, like, her biggest detriment, I feel like, was, like, people's perception of her on the island. Like, maybe her whole, like, neurotic, very, like, out there kind of attitude, like made her seem like she was like a flipper or she did not make good moves. Even though we see Hannah, she's like trying to take control of her game and she's trying to make these moves, but I feel like maybe her whole like not even ditzy, but her whole aura is sort of like leading to people not taking her seriously.
I think part of it is also Hannah made moves, but the moves were all of questionable quality. It's like, do you want someone who makes some like moves that are like strategically moves, but also like, why are you doing what you're doing? Around Hannah's logic behind that was sometimes, at least to me.
No, yeah, I feel like, I mean, Hannah did pretty well at Final Tribal Council, I feel like. And I don't know,
She
I thought
definitely did well.
Yeah, I think it was like very weird after Adam won Soul Survivor. A lot of like people online were like, I can't believe Ken did not win. And I was sort of like taken aback by this. I was like, okay, a Ken, Hannah, Adam Final Tribal Council. I would think, you know, maybe Hannah and Adam would be the two trying to like vie for all the votes. But then people were very angry that Ken did not win. And I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah, that really is interesting. Like, taken aback by that. Like, I think that Ken played a really solid game, but most of his moves in the game were like aligning with the correct people rather than like really making any moves for himself. And I feel like a better argument Ken could have made at Tribal Council was that like David's kind of behind the scenes guy, like he was the person that made to do what David did, because I feel like a lot of the jury members respected David and the game that he played. So if Ken could have like board with that, I guess, to get a couple votes.
No, yeah, and I like all the people are like, Ken should have won. You know, maybe we didn't see it in like editing and everything, but I mean, Ken, I feel like, and definitely Hannah, one of their detriments as well was being so close to David. And I think the whole like not voting David out instead of Brett, that vote really cemented the fact that like they were so like loyal and close to David, and people might have viewed David as like the head honcho and like Hannah and Ken as his two like right hand men / woman on the island. So I feel like that's why people attributed the whole David vote out to Adam, because 100% I was like, Ken would never in a million years flip on David. And so going off of that, I feel like the whole Ken being super loyal throughout the game might have been a little tarnished at that last Final Tribal Council right before the Final Tribal Council, you know?
I think a really interesting kind of connection you could make is in Heroes versus Villains, when Parvati came in second place, and a lot of people are saying it was because she was tied to clothing bad that he did reflected poorly on her as well, except for kind of in the opposite way, where they could never get any credit for anything that they did because it reflected well on David instead of well on them. Just kind of a shame, because I would really like to know how much of that was David and how much of that was Ken / Hannah / anyone else.
Yeah, that is definitely true. And speaking of David, I think a lot of people are also angry that David didn't win the game, but I think this is why Survivor is so great. Like David, yes, he has had this amazing story arc, and he comes and like falls just short of Final Tribal Council, and I think 100% David could have won this game. And like that, like, this is Survivor. Like, he is so close and yet so far, and like kudos to everyone else realizing that David would have freaking won this game if he made it to Final Tribal Council, and they voted him out for it. And I think 100% David will probably be invited back for another season.
Yeah, I think it will be good to see David on another season, just because Personally, I'm not a fan of the whole nerd gets his wings kind of story arc, just because they seem to have one in every single season. And it's getting kind of beaten to death, I guess. So I think it would be interesting to see him without that story arc attached to him. So.
Yeah, and I think Jay as well. He's a very likable guy. Was on the wrong side of the vote for like every single vote after the merge besides Taylor's vote out. But I mean, he's a very likable dude. I think he should be or would be invited to play again as well.
Yeah, I think so too. A lot of the players on this season have a high level of replayability. I think all of them showed themselves to be strategic players rather than emotional players. And while it can be funny to be like, haha, look at that guy. Remember how he's known for doing something stupid like peeing in the rice? It's like, it's more fun for the producers, I feel like, and for the audience to have people who are coming back because they're strategic threats, not because they're amusing, I guess.
No, yeah, definitely. So I guess we can start talking about the actual Survivor 2-hour episode. We'll probably just do like the immunity challenges and like the whole strategy behind it because we didn't really see much else. And I think the pacing for this episode was was like decently well edited together. Like we didn't get too much like hodgepodge waste of time, but I think it flowed like cut, bam, tribal council, and like there we go.
We got what we needed to know in order to understand what was going on.
Exactly. So we shall start, I guess. So immunity challenge, David wins the first one, and I think I commented on one of the Survivor on CBS videos saying that Jay should like probably take this reward challenge because he got the reward steal from Adam, and he knows like it's very smart to do it now because he probably knows there are not going to be a lot of more rewards that he can use it on. Plus, he doesn't know how long he's going to be staying in the game. So if he doesn't use it this time, then he's voted out. Like we saw, he would never have gotten that nice-ass stick. So I think Jay letting David keep the reward was very nice of him. That is the way to go. And then picking Adam was very good. And I think Jay was very, very smart with his picks because a final tribal council with Jay, David, and Adam would be very, very good for Jay. It would be less good for David and not good for Adam. But I think, like we saw, getting rid of this meat shield of Jay, David was really afraid that he would be the next target, and it did end up biting him in the ass. So I think, like, seeing a final tribal council of Jay, David, and Adam would have been so, so, so lit.
Yeah, and I feel like Jay definitely, they talk about $1 million mistakes all the time on Survivor, and $1 million mistake for Jay, I feel like, because I feel like he definitely stood a chance at winning either of the other two remaining immunity challenges. So if he could have pushed past this vote, if he could have actually won this challenge instead of just being able to steal the reward portion, I feel like he could have done.
Yeah, and I think good for them. I think Jay was a very dangerous player to win this game. He has a lot of friends on the jury, similar to Brett. And so good for them. I was sad, like, I mean, this isn't tribal council, so I guess we'll talk about Jay going home during the tribal council part. Should we talk about the legacy advantage? Or keep going on?
There's not really much to be said about the legacy advantage. It was kind of disappointing. And I guess I feel like we as fans hyped it up more than it needed to be hyped up, just because all these cool new advantages like steal a vote, get an extra vote, or something like that.
Yeah, and I think so. The legacy advantage, day 36, rolls around, and we see that it gives the person holding it individual immunity at tribal council. And I was thinking, like, this is so, like, OP. I mean, low-key, maybe it's, like, a better in the sense that, like, better than, it's so good that it's better than the advantage in like the final like immunity challenge, but like I'm not really sure how I feel because it's so good that it's bad.
I feel like it's better than giving them an advantage in like one of the challenges, just because they normally end up winning the challenge anyway, and it's like at least this way we don't have to sit through a challenge so we know.
But then like now if they get automatic, like they don't even need to freaking play in the challenge because they have it. And like I could see how the legacy advantage could be very, very interesting to watch on TV. I think having it in Ken's hands like didn't really affect anything, so it was sort of a dud. But like if Jay or someone had it, like it would be put to good use. It would be very interesting if Jay pulled that out instead of that fake idol and played it. Like that would stir the pot.
I feel like it's going to be interesting just because now that people know legacy advantage is a possibility, that can really inform your gameplay, just because it's one of those things where you don't really want to backstab your allies now because they could have something that you want after they get voted out. So
yeah, and I think it would be interesting if like the legacy advantage evolves, so it's not that like you get individual immunity, but like if you hold the legacy advantage, you could give someone else at tribal council individual immunity. So it's sort of like those like double tribal councils when both tribes pre-merge go, then like they watch and then the other people like go up, you know, and then they give one person immunity out of that. Like you could frick some things up if like Ken had it this time and like he gave it to David and like David was the actual person like on the chopping block. That would be so like a game changer. And I think like
having another hidden immunity idol though, and I feel like that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, we have like advantages and disadvantages to all of these things. Like no wonder it's so difficult for CBS to like keep trying to change things in the game to make it like new and unique and like that kind of things. And like the same kind of thing with idols, like you could get them like sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work depending on how you play them. And low key during this time for the Ken bringing up the whole legacy advantage, Jess looked hella pissed off.
Yeah, I feel like I would be pissed off. Like, I think it would be really, really annoying to have what you thought was an immunity idol thrown in someone get immunity for something they didn't even do.
No, yeah, Jess was like, holy shiz.
Immunity idol, 3 of them that were immune if they had had the immunity idol, the legacy advantage, and like individual immunity from the challenge.
Yeah, Jess was like, holy shiz, you know, if she made it just a few more votes, she could be like guaranteed final 5 in the game. And you could see it on her face when like the camera shots went to her. She was like very, very bummed and sad about this.
I mean, I would be bummed too. I think that maybe also she might have regretted giving it to Ken a little bit, just because at that point I feel like people were beginning to see that Ken wasn't really a viable option for winning the game, at least the jury and what they've said before. So
yeah, so I mean, speaking of idols as well, David made an amazing, like very good looking fake idol, and then Jay plays it. And I think on David's part, it is so smart. Like his idol looks a lot better than a stick, and David and Ken basically lead Jay to where the idol is hidden to make sure he finds this fake idol, and then it basically prevents Jay from continuing to look for the real idol because he thinks he has an idol. So it gives Jay this sense of security, so he might not strategize as hard. And I think overall, like, oh my god, it was good for David.
I feel like Jay still strategized really, really hard because he knew that he'd rather not have to play his idol. But I also think that was a really impressive idol, like way better than a stick.
Yeah, and Jay was like totally confident, like with this idol, and like, why would you not think it's a real idol? Because if it looks like neat and it has the paper and everything, and David has said that he used like a pink emblem on like the front of the coconut. It was a pink blob, but like he mixed red and white so he could get a color that wasn't found at camp, so people wouldn't like suspect that it was fake or anything.
Like, very beautiful, very good job, Dave. I would think it would be interesting, though, just because Jay's had an idol before, so wouldn't you be at least a little suspicious that it didn't look like your old idol?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, he was so pumped about this, and I don't know. I like wanted him to play at Tribal because it's always funny when like people play fake idols. But like low key, like I was like nah, because it's only funny when goobies like Jason or Randy play fake idols. Like not when like someone you like plays a fake idol. Oh my God, everyone on the jury was so shocked. It looked like everyone but David was shocked maybe. So it'd be interesting to know if David told like Adam and Hannah and Ken about it. And then Jeff, oh my God, he was like, this is not a hidden immunity idol. I was like geeked.
I was really upset that Jeff threw that piece of art into a fire. Like, I could have gotten at the Survivor auction, man. Like, I think you should stop burning fake immunity idols, Jeff Probst. Those are like,
right? You should keep them like souvenirs. That is freaking amazing. Oh my God. And like speaking of Tribal, I guess, Jay, we see him go home after he plays this fake idol, and going into this first Tribal Council, Corey and I were really thinking like, you know, Brett would probably be the first one to go because we got a lot of screen time from Brett this first opening episode, as well as like we see Hannah, David, and Adam say they want to work with Jay, and like on the other hand, it is very dumb to keep Jay in the game. Like,
I don't know. I think that at this point, there's so many people that it would be dumb to keep in the game that, like, I don't know, man.
I mean, yeah, we've said like we never thought that Adam would vote and like write Jay's name down, but then we see Adam write Jay's name. So I think
you said that. I thought it was a total possibility.
I think it's good that they can like. I think it's good that they can separate their like game life and their real life like connection. So like they're not all butthurt that one voted the other off. And I think I was sad. Like I really liked Jay, and like I thought going into the finale, Jay was going to win. But I mean, strategically for Adam, like it's like having Jay gone is one step closer to 1 million because Jay would have beaten Adam in a final Tribal Council.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like also what you said about people being able to from like their real life connection, I feel like that's kind of been one of the hallmarks of this season. Like you see people like openly talking about the other is or isn't doing and how big of a threat the other person is. And it's like no one really cares. They all like realize that this is a game of strategy and that their strategy, but their opponents are also going to need strategy. So
yeah, and like Jay had one of the funniest Tribal Council exits, I think. Yeah, he's like walking around and then he's like, snuff my torch, Jeffrey. I don't know. It was just very, very funny and cute.
I think it was just really funny just because he held absolutely no animosity towards anyone. He was just like, wow, that was pretty darn cool.
Yeah, and like plus I'm interested to know like what made Jay vote Ken. It seems a little off because the whole it was Jay versus Brett this time. It was interesting.
Yeah.
That he did not vote Brett.
I mean, I feel like that's one of those things where there's probably something we didn't see that happened behind the scenes there that influenced the vote.
Yeah. So, I mean, second episode of the night, we go to Immunity Challenge numero dos, where Ken wins. And I think Like it's very interesting. I think this was the funniest puzzle, like word puzzle that we've seen all season. The answer was not a participation trophy. I was like, LMAO, this theme though.
I was just like, it was like, wow, way to fire some shots there, CBS. Interesting,
Yeah.
because there's so much arguing that goes on about participation trophies, and it's like a can of worms. I was kind of still like bit a tribal about that, about like, so what do you think of participation trophies? Just because they had that one awkward thing about texting and typing out the letter U versus the word U. So
Yeah, like they are hammering this theme home, but like now I don't know. It was just so funny. We saw that. I was like, what the heck? That is such like a weird but like so relevant answer to the word puzzle. Yeah. Relevant. Like answer to the word puzzle. And I mean, good for Ken for winning, but then during this time when Ken was winning, we were like, oh, bad for Adam and David, because we would think it would be like an Adam v. David showdown, and we see this sort of start to play out. David was telling everyone like, yo, let's vote Adam out because, you know, he's a strong dude as well, and we know Adam's gunning for me, let's vote Adam. And we're like, ha, nay, nay, nay. This is not good for Adam.
Adam, I felt so bad because he had not a participation, and then he couldn't find the word trophy, and I was like, come on, Adam.
Yeah, and I mean, we were thinking like, shoot, you know, Jay went home last time. It looks like Adam might be going home this time because that would be like the progression of things that we were seeing. And then when Adam finds this idol, we were like, thank the Lord. We see Brett covering for Adam, like, oh, you know, he's not feeling well. That was super cute. And we were like, thank God Adam is not going home. He has found 2 idols this season. Like,
I saw something like online about people thinking that this was like a purposeful idol plant, and like the creators of Survivor were rigging the game so that Adam could win. And I was just like, whoa, guys, back off there.
oh my gosh. And I mean, final 5, this is the last time you can play an idol, so you might as well play it even if you don't think you're going home. But it's like on the off chance that you're actually going to go home, like you need to play this when you have it at final 5. And I mean, good, Adam is safe, but I think they could have gotten David to go home here, maybe, depending on if Hannah was like legit on wanting to vote David this time or not wanting to. She has this whole plan, but when Adam tells Hannah about the idol,
I like literally face palmed. Like, Adam, come on, you know, you're a super fan. You know that the biggest rule of Survivor idol finds is secrecy.
Yeah, and I mean, that's when we knew like David probably isn't going home because like the beans are gonna be spilled, and Brett is probably going to go now from Crossfire. And I mean, maybe it's like good for Hannah. She is obviously playing both sides, and kudos to her. Like, she has so much trust with Adam and with David that both of them are willing like to give her all of this information about every single plan.
That's just I literally can't do anything other than make noises at this point, just because some of those, I really hope that it was just like sleep deprivation or starvation or thirst or something, because I was just like, that was a really stupid move. And I guess we also have the benefit of hindsight, so.
Yeah, and I mean, so we go to tribal council, and I think like it's an interesting idea that we're starting to see happen, where you vote out the goats and like these very likable people that have a lot of friends on the jury and very good with the jury out of the game. And I feel like we have not really seen this kind of strategy before, because people like with good social games, or like, you know, people that are perceived as goats, you're like, let's bring them to the end because I can easily win against them. But then on the flip side, if they are very social and very likable, like, that's a legitimate strategy.
And I guess part of it is it comes down to the jury. Like, we talk a lot about bitter juries, and it's like, you have to know whether your jury is going to be a bitter jury and just pick the person they like the best, or if they're going to pick the person they believe had the legitimate best game. And so those two things are kind of weighed against each other. And I guess it's another thing where I've been talking a lot about getting to know the people that you're playing with and on them. I feel like that's one of the things you need to do, is consider your jury members when you're considering who you're voting out, not just like who they like, but also what did they like.
No, yeah, like during tribal council, really thought that David like would go home and should go home because Adam has the idol, he can't be voted out, and like it would be so dumb not to vote David out when you have the chance, because there's only one immunity challenge left. And then so seeing Brett get voted out, we were totally like, WTF. Like, Hannah and Ken had the opportunity to vote out the biggest threat in this game. Like, Brett saying you just gave David the million, we were like, David is gonna win this thing. We'd like what the actual heck just happened?
And I guess part of it is also Hannah realized that David was a legitimate threat, and I couldn't tell whether she didn't care or whether she thought that, like, behind the thought process behind that, just because normally I can, like, figure out, like, oh yeah, this is where this person is coming from. This is why they believe this other person to be a legitimate threat. But this one was like, eh. So,
yeah, and like, you have the opportunity right now to take David out, and like, you don't know how things are going to play out in the future. David could win the next immunity and make it into final tribal council, and then you just like screwed yourself over in winning the game because you could have voted him out this time. And I think we saw it play out perfectly, like, well for Adam, but like, oh my God, everything. It's like Brett going, we are like 100% Adam is going to go next time, because it seems like he is less close to Hannah and Ken as David is to them, because everyone thinks that David is this like head honcho to Hannah and Ken, and those are just his two right-hand people. And like, Hannah's reasoning doesn't really make sense. She's like, I want to keep him around one more time because I didn't think it was like the right time to vote him out. But it's like, what if he won immunity? Like, you never know. He could have made it to final tribal. And she was like, I don't think I could go to final tribal with Adam or Brett, but I feel like in this situation where David was voted out this time, Hannah goes final tribal council either way, either with Ken and David or with like Brett and Adam.
yeah, I couldn't really understand that. And then like Hannah's strategy banks on not only the fact that like that David won't win immunity, but also that either Ken will flip or Adam will win the fire making competition. And things are something I would be willing to bet $1 million on.
Yeah, and like, we see this happen, and everyone on the jury is like, WTF, y'all so dumb. Like, that's exactly what we were thinking. And I think this probably played into the whole final tribal council scenario that we saw happen. So I guess going into this final immunity challenge, Ken wins again. So he has been immune all 3 tribal councils this episode. And I think just like this whole final immunity strategy, before Adam started doing it, I was like, it would be smart to just like, if like the time is running out, or if you only need this certain amount because of the time and stuff like that, like, you just stop going through the puzzle, because you're more likely to knock your thing over with like the wind or like bumping your thing than you are to just lay back, and if no one's near you, you just hang out. Like, I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah, and then you see kind of like strategy, but it also depends a lot on what the people around you are doing. And like you saw that strategy didn't work for Adam. He didn't win. And then it didn't work for Hannah in the playoff either because won with a more aggressive strategy instead of just hanging around.
Yeah, and I think just like the only thing that could not happen was having David win immunity. And if David won immunity, like all of the plans go downhill. And so Adam and David were not in that like runoff thing. And like it doesn't matter who wins out of Ken and Hannah, really. So at this freaking tribal council, oh my God, so thought like it would go to fire because we were like, Ken would never flip on David. They have been A1 since day one, having this sort of like geeky bond kind of thing that we never thought this like kind of relationship would happen. And then we were thinking, you know, David would win the fire making challenge if there were to be one, because he was shown making fire in like episode 1 or 2, and like what a story arc it would be if in the finale he wins, earning his spot in final tribal council, making fire again. Like it would have been
been like a great coming full circle kind of thing. But I think I knew as soon as they showed the shot of Ken's face at tribal council, just because Ken looked like he was legitimately about to cry, and I was like, there's no way he would look like that if he hadn't just stabbed David in the back.
Aww. And I did not think Hannah could sway Ken as well. But I think it's very, very good for Hannah and Ken that they didn't go to a fire making challenge, because that would just show that they're even more indecisive and like wishy-washy towards the jury, because the winner of this fire making challenge would not only earn their spot in final tribal council, but winning this fire making challenge at final 4 to earn your spot into the finale. Like that is a great resume builder and like reason why you should win this game. You literally had to make fire and fought to the death.
Yeah, and you were willing to go to the fire making challenge and stuff like that. And I feel like part of it is you have to show that you're going to be gutsy about that and make gutsy moves, and you're not going to let your game be in someone else's hands.
Yeah, and I mean, so glad Hannah and Ken sort of redeemed themselves this episode, because like if they left David in, like good for David, he deserves $1 million, but like low-key we're like no for Adam, but like very, very happy Hannah and Ken realized they were not going to win for David. And I think the whole Ken thing about like this is the game and I'm playing for my daughter, that's why David, I need to vote you out because it's for my daughter. I think that was very, very like, I don't know, like very like emotional, very good for Ken.
Yeah, and I think like it's a good reason. Like there's not really a good reason to turn on any of your allies, but I think like of all the reasons, it's more understandable to be like, oh, I want to be able to provide for my child, rather than just be like, oh yeah, I want to buy a yacht or something like that.
Yeah, and I am also very glad that the game is sort of evolving so that like these people are actually realizing where they stand in the game. They're not just like being goated or being content on where they stand, but they're actually making moves so they can set themselves up in a position to win this game. And so David being voted out, we were like, Adam is going to win this game 100%. We were freaking out. It's like Adam is winning. Like we know a Survivor freaking winner.
Yeah, it was kind of weird just because I feel like going into Final Tribal, I knew that Adam was going to win. The person I was watching on anything, I don't want to be disappointed by saying Adam's definitely going to win. Yeah. But then,
yeah, so go ahead.
I don't feel like any of the jury members' like final questions were particularly memorable or anything of the sort. Like most of them were just, I feel like the best of all of them was Zeke's about like the game and stuff like that. So
yeah, and we see Chris like whatever the word is, like where you just sort of support One person and tell everyone to vote. What?
Advocate for. It was interesting because Chris's whole reason for like, yo, vote for Adam is because he flipped Ken and I don't know.
Yeah,
it was based on a flawed premise, but
yeah, but I mean, good for Adam for like being the person that got the credit for that, because I feel like people were like, Hannah and Ken were not willing to vote David, as we saw in the Brett vote out, so it must have been Adam who swayed them. So I mean, like, good for Adam winning. Like, I don't know, I'm still in shock.
I think it's interesting just because it's a unanimous vote, and this is the second time in 3 seasons that the vote has been unanimous for the winner.
Oh yeah, I think that was.
Think it's. You go.
I think that was a video idea I wrote down in my notes on my phone. Something like, recently we've been seeing a lot of unanimous votes, or even like votes that aren't really close in voting. And I think that'd be something interesting we could talk about in a different video.
But it was interesting because as soon as Adam's name came up for the second time, I knew that he was going to be the winner, since they like alternate votes if there are any other votes to alternate. So after his name was read twice in a row, I was like, he's the winner. And my friend was like, what? And I was like, trust me.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think overall, like, a really, really good season. We saw a lot of different blindsides and everything like that, and like Adam winning is like the icing on the cake, and I feel like this is just going into this whole larger story that Adam is having. And I think definitely, as we saw in the reunion show, everyone should donate for his mother's cause. We will have the link in the description.
And even if you're not donating because you like Adam or anything of the sort, cancer is something that's like, in case you didn't realize that already. But like, brief digression from the topic, I want to become a neurosurgeon so I can help people with brain cancer, which is like one of the most aggressive and often most fatal kinds of cancer. So, up, guys, cure cancer. Woo.
Aww. Yeah. So going to the reunion show, I think this was one of the better, if not like one of the best kind of reunion shows that we've seen in a while, because Jeff talked to a lot of different people and hit on the big parts of this season. And we didn't have like random people in the audience talking, or like Sia freaking coming out and like wasting time. But Jeff was very like, answer the question, move on, ask the next person the question. I think that was what made the reunion show so good.
Yeah, because like I feel like everyone who was an important player in this show got some airtime.
Yeah.
The strangest part about the reunion show for me was the fact that they randomly brought up Ken and Hannah again. And I was like, and then I kind of expected it to be like a prelude to like Ken and Hannah being like, oh yeah, we're dating now. And then it wasn't. No. And this was put in at all.
Aww.
So.
Yeah.
At the reunion show, that was a little weird for me.
Oh, what was very cringy was the whole fake tails thing, but we do not need to mention that. Let's talk about Game Changers.
Game Changers. We already did our cast assessment for season 24, or 34. Almost took us back 5 years. Anyway, we already did our cast assessment for season 34, and we're hoping that next week, instead of doing our regular season stuff, since the season is over, we'll talk about the different tribes for season 34. So that'll be our video for next week.
Yep, we will link the cast assessment in the description, and I think it was very interesting. At the reunion show, they brought the famous people that are returning back onto stage, and Jeff was like, Michaela, guys, she's going to be on next season, but they didn't bring up Zeke. Interesting.
I think that was interesting just because, I don't know. But I think that was an interesting thing too, just how they only mentioned one of the people returning.
No,
we
yeah,
have a lot to say about game changers as a theme, I feel like. So keep an eye out for that video. And then also, like I've been saying like 10 times, since there are no more to the season, we're going to be making videos during the hiatus, but we need ideas for videos to make. And none of you guys commented any on our last videos, and I cried. So yeah, please tell us if you have any ideas for videos we can make. It can just be videos like, say your favorite season and why, or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, we are closing out our last podcast of season 33. What an amazing 3 seasons it has been. 1 year of podcasting. Wow.
We'd like to thank you all for coming on this journey with us, and we hope to see you in March when Survivor starts again. But stay tuned for the videos that are coming in between now and then.
Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. Like and comment. We love reading them as always, and we will see you guys next Friday or Saturday for Tribe reactions of season 34. How crazy.